Well, food security in Africa was an ongoing concern throughout 2016. Some countries have been investing heavily in their agricultural sectors, which has improved the lives of millions of people. On the other hand, conflict in certain regions and the effects of El Nino weather phenomenon mean millions more are facing food insecurity. In Ethiopia, for example, around 10 million people are going hungry. Somalia is also hard hit, and in southern Africa, Zimbabwe bears the brunt of food insecurity. Aid agencies have been working towards getting food aid to the worst affected, but they are struggling with an ever-widening funding shortage. And as we mentioned there, Zimbabwe and Somalia have both been affected by El Nino in terms of food security. And I'm now joined by Farai Mwakutuya in Harare and Abdulaziz Bilo in Mogadishu. Farai, first to you though. Southern Africa has been hard hit, but what's the latest in terms of food security in Zimbabwe, and how will that affect the people of the country going into 2017?
Well, Beatrice, about 4 million people are receiving food aid, and those food distributions are ongoing, both by government, which has imported about 300,000 metric tons of maize, as well as humanitarian agencies. Now, in addition to just handing out food, government has also launched a school feeding program targeting specifically primary school children. And what that's done is to address the malnutrition crisis that had been created because of this drought, but it's also reduced the number of school dropouts. School attendance has gone up sharply because of that food that's being given to children when they do get to school. As at December last year, the government had imported those 300,000 metric tons I've mentioned, and they say that is enough cover for 6 months. They're also hoping that the current season, which is ongoing, will be a normal rainfall season. There are efforts underway by government to bolster production of maize to about 2 million tons. They hope that if that happens, then Zimbabwe can recover from the current drought, but also get on the path to self-sufficiency again. So in the coming year, yes, it is still precarious. People are still vulnerable, but certainly in terms of cover and aid getting to them, provisions have been made for that.
Well, Abdulaziz, a drought has dampened the forecast for Somalia, though. But what plans are in place for 2017 to address that ongoing food insecurity problem in Somalia?
Well, Beatrice, rainfall has been recorded in some of the drought-stricken areas. This is to the northeast of Somalia, in Puntland and Somaliland, but that hasn't yet addressed the drought crisis that is still being experienced towards the areas that border with neighboring Kenya and also areas that share the border with Ethiopia. Now, according to UN statistics, approximately 40% of the Somali population, this is 3.9 million people, are in need of immediate food aid. Now, 1 million of that are suffering from acute food insecurity. That is according to the latest statistics from the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, UN OCHA. Now, of those families mostly affected in these areas are pastoral communities as well as farmers, especially pastoralists. We understand that it's the principal source of livelihood here in Somalia and the major source of revenue, livestock exports. So this ongoing drought has had a heavy toll on that industry that was beginning to show momentum. But there was a committee here set aside by the president that is being led by the deputy prime minister. There was a humanitarian appeal launch here in the capital, Mogadishu, where the president declared that the drought is a national disaster, and they appealed for immediate aid for the families that have been affected by the ongoing drought. So what the United Nations and the Somali government is saying is that they are trying to heed the warning calls of the drought in this area so that it does not become a famine like we witnessed in 2011. So for now, the humanitarian appeal has been launched, but that hasn't yet addressed the needs on the ground. There talk of farmers. They are asking the government to be able to offer them drought-resistant crops so that they can be able to grow during the drought period. But for now, the situation in parts of Gedo and Bakol is particularly deteriorating, even though there's sufficient rain that has been received in the past few weeks. Beatrice.
All right, Abdulaziz Bilo there for us in Mogadishu and Farai Mwakutuya in Harare.